Why, hello, hi, it is me, it is I, Small Town Didi, you're a Heidi on the internet, and I am back, we're back, you guys. Ek is terug. We are down here for the Bala Family review, episode 1 and hopefully 2. I wanna be sure, if you're new here, my reviews are long. They just are, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do about it anymore, and I'm done apologizing. Please do like, share, comment, and subscribe. Please subscribe. Thank you. Let's get into it. The Bala family, we know them. If you're South African, then you're probably aware of these people. Then you're probably aware of the brothers or one of the brothers, like depending on the generation you're from. But a lot of us know all three of them, right? Loiso, Zwei, and Pelo. Pelo being the least accomplished of them, also because he's the youngest, right? But anyway, we will get into that as we go. Bala Family, episode 1, we have an intro scene and it's just like bouncing around. We're seeing. Basically, we just get to know who is who in the family. With Sispinky, who is somebody whom we wouldn't know like that because she wasn't in the limelight with the brothers, respectively. And then the mom as well, and then we meet the mom's spouse, Uta Jafta. I have thoughts. I should say, I saw some of the clips circulate online, which is why I decided that I actually want to watch this to review, but time got away from me. So I'm aware of what transpired in the first couple of episodes, well, from the clips, but there was a lot of context missing. So I got a broader picture when I actually watched the episode. So my some of my thoughts have shifted since I'd seen the clips, but let's get into it. We have Mama sitting there with her husband Utajafta, and they are giggling and laughing. She's such a girl. She's so in love. He's not even funny. He thinks he is. And your girl is giggling at everything. Just reminds me of my parents. My dad's not funny, but you know who's always giggling at his shit? My mom. Always giggling, cackling on, caring about, and it's like, he's not even funny. He's not funny. But okay, you're in love, girl. So obviously, like, everything you have to say is, oh. But it's cute. You know, it's nice to see old people into each other like that in a weird way. I just wish he had a job while he was making her laugh. Or he had worked a good enough job to be able to take care of her with those pensions. Men are interesting. We learned that the kids aren't necessarily on board with this union. It turns out that Jefta was very good friends with the children's biological dad. So Mr. Bala, I suppose. And she says, Mama says that, you know, his wife is deceased. I'm also not partnered. So he was like, you know, let's be partnered. And they ask him, what did you like about her? And he's like, how she like takes care of herself and her home and her dignity. This is just a classic case of men really think they're gonna die first. Like, they get married, it's an insurance policy for them, is it not? Like, they aren't supposed to die first. They live their lives very reckless. They make the calculation that they are gonna leave first because they could not be expected to take care of themselves or the children, right? So he obviously had to quickly marry another person, which is her. Like, the proximity was there so that he could continue to have somebody tend and take care of him, because God forbid he needs to start taking care of himself in his big age. Hell no. That's what the fuck this is. I don't care. Anyway, we see Pinky. Pinky is my favorite. I've only watched episode 1 and 2 because I watch as I review, right? I don't want future episodes to influence how I feel. She seems to be a straight shooter, which, hello, okay, so me. She's a straight shooter. We see her sitting there at the table. We learned that she resigned from her job and she's moved back home. I'm confused as to when Mama says she's moved back home. Is it back into their family home that she lives with Jafta, or home as in the area at large, where they live? And I forget the name of the place. They are sitting at the table, they talking, and she says that she's arranging a Thanksgiving dinner just to really say thanks to God. They seem to be Christian or something like that. Say thanks to God for, you know, bringing her kids back together, or her attempt at trying to have her kids back together, because it seems like the boys aren't getting along right now, or there is just classic family dynamics. This show mirrors the Braxton's family values for me quite a lot, especially with the music element of it, them being a family that sings. They can all sing. Mam Jafta, she lets us know she is Mam Jafta now. Yes, she lets us know that her husband as well, her late husband, the kid's father, he also comes from a musical family, and that's what really how they got together or whatever. But they sing. Spinky also sings. So she's my favorite. They get to talking about that, and then somewhere mid conversation, Pinky also brings up the fact that you have now married, part of the problems that we have is also the issue of the fact that you married this man without really talking to us. This is the family home. You've made it very difficult and awkward for people to come to their grandmother's house, not just us as your children, but our cousins as well, because this is the family home. This is their grandparents' home, They now come here. It's not the same. They don't feel as free anymore because you have this man here, and it's like, what's going on, And I understand that men suck the energy out of the room. There's this thing that happens when they come back home. Everybody was laughing. We all stop laughing. We leave the living room and we all go to our bedrooms because it's like, oh, here comes that fucking vampire. Sucking the energy out of the room, not adding anything. It's not interesting. It's like he's old and he's not our granddad and this is not his house. You've taken this man, you've put him in this house. If something should happen to you, does this man now own this house? Because we know they inside no prenup. They just want to be married, the old people. They don't want to do all of that. So what's supposed to happen now here? Then she says that in her confessional, Mama says in her confessional that she lives at this house because her parents are deceased. So I got lost. I can't tell if she's saying she had a home of her own, but she moved here because nobody was staying here. And that's her husband. So he had to come and stay with her where she is. I can't figure out what the hell is going on, because if you're over there, who the hell is over at the other house? I don't know what's going on. But this thing of moving men in, rubbish. That's my take. And then that she doesn't want to talk about this. That Jefta gets uncomfortable and he gets up from where he sat because he can hear the conversation from where he's sitting, and he exits the room because he doesn't want to hear what's being said here. Yo, guys, Pinky's like this. She's on the neck for no reason, for absolutely no reason. And the mom says, I feel like the kids aren't being understanding of me. I need companionship. I need partnership. I've tried to be understanding of this, especially because I've realized in my community in particular, when the women lose their husbands, a lot of them don't remarry, right? And a lot of them don't date, and they could be very young. You have somebody in their late 30s or their 40s and they lose their husband, they probably won't partner again. I get it. Some of them realize the scam of partnership. Like, that man dying was probably what fucking saved them. And they're like, I'm not finna go through that shit again. Like, I am not going through this nonsense again. Or, but like, let me just focus on raising my kids. But the kids leave the house now and you're lonely and you get bored, and we get lonely as people. I don't feel like that thing goes away just because you got older and now all of a sudden you don't want that friend or that companion or whatever. That said, you must be strategic about how you're gonna partner. I don't care how old you are. You can't just want like somebody to do like let's say Sanine. Watch Trevor Noah. Watch Hannibal. You wanna laugh that fucking bad. Watch some fucking stand-up. But anyway, we see Loisa and his family. We learn that the wife is... I hear her mention her nationalities. I don't hear her talk about race, so I don't know if she identifies as biracial. She has one parent from Ghana, one parent from Poland, and I think she was raised in Poland. So she says she's Ghanaian and Polish, but those are her nationalities. So I don't know. I'm gonna shoot in the dark and decide that the Polish parent is white and she's biracial. I'm just gonna decide that. I'm just gonna do that. And they are in this multicultural, is it then also multiracial relationship with Loiso. They have some beautiful beautiful kids. It's a beautiful family. It's really nice. They seem to live their life over there. And everybody else is living their lives over here, which is classic. When you marry into other cultures or you have other cultures marrying into your family, a lot happens, right? Pella arrives at home. Mama and Pinky are preparing the lunch that everybody's supposed to have. I find it interesting again that the women just, they labor. You labor, and the boys are just gonna show up. They're just gonna show up and have this lunch, Pelo arrives. We learn that he's going through his initiation thing, Watwasa, to become a traditional healer and things of that nature. They have a good laugh, and then they talk about his divorce. I was happy that they decided to address this head on and not move around the thing. We're getting something really good, very much like the Ranakas. Like, we're getting the tea from the horse's mouth. They roll a montage of his life, so to speak, in pictures with Mushendiki, his former partner. I don't know if they're officially divorced yet. And he says to his sister, yo, like, how can I go about getting this divorce without the lawyers and those expenses? And the sister's like, no, I told you to go to Home Affairs, this, that, and the other. It's 35 rands. He's like, I was there the other day. They informed me that I need X and X and X, like my documentations and stuff. And one of the things I needed would also be the marriage contract. Because, see, it's an agreement. But we can't say that. But we can call it like a contract. Like, does God know about the contract? The legally binding contract? But anyway, then he says that he doesn't have it. He texted Musha about it, and he says Musha blue ticked him. We wouldn't know. That's what he says. And then the mom gets to say to him, you know what? I feel like maybe we were hard on you at some point, and you were working through stuff, things of your sexuality, all manner of stuff, and we weren't very patient with you when you were trying to find your way. And then they also mentioned the traditional healing stuff. Maybe your needing to initiate was also messing up your stuff, and we couldn't figure out what was going on with you at the time and things of that nature. And the mom says, but you've come a long way since then. And she's like, how are you and your brothers? How's that going? And then he's like, no, him and his brother Lois are fine. He calls and speaks to his brother Lois all the time. He sees him all the time. They're actually really, really good. They have a good bond. And Zwei, and he's like, and the mom is like, okay, since you and Zwei aren't on good terms and I'm aware of this, what should happen when Zwei shows up here? Or do you think Zwei is even going to show up because you're going to be here? And Pelo says he doesn't care. And his mom and his sister are like, what do you mean you don't care? Like, we don't throw family away. We don't throw people away. If that's the case, Pinky says, I could have thrown you away. You got up to some stuff that were worth you being thrown out. So how are you so quick to want to throw Zwei out for whatever issue it is that you guys have? I feel like these are parts of the conversations where we need to realize that family can be overrated. Family is important, don't get me wrong, right? But the healthy kind of family dynamic is what's important. And we're not going to be as close within the family all the time. Those things shift. For instance, my sister's favorite sibling is my brother. My favorite sibling is my brother. He's everybody's favorite. He's also in the middle. So he does that, right? He's also my mom's favorite. I don't know if I'm going to keep this in, but he is. Like, he's everybody's favorite. It's really nice for him. She'll probably tell him something before she tells me. I'll probably tell him something before I tell her. Like, I don't know how to explain it. So sometimes we want people. Pinky and Zwei are very close, but they're older. They essentially grew up together. They got to have to like bear the brunt of things together, being the older ones. And these ones are closer to each other because they are the youngest. Right? You see how that pans out. But anyway, and Pink is like, we've come too far. And that's the other thing. There's a bit of emotional stuff going on there. It's like the relationship you have with Zwei, Pinky, is not the relationship that Pelo has with Zwei. Zwei probably respects you, right? And Zwei probably looks at Pelo like, like, why? Zwei would never speak to you any which kind of way. And he would never have certain expectations of you. Like, you need to kiss the ring and stuff. Because he sees you as an equal, as his sibling. But probably doesn't give the same kind of vibe to Pelo. But we see that as we move on to the second episode. We see Zwei's package. They roll his clip. He's like, he has 2 baby mamas and 3 kids and blah, blah, blah. And then he arrives at the house. He gets there. He's, the formalities of it all. He exchanges pleasantries with everybody but Pelo. Pelo is like, the whole time, like, his face changes. And Zwei in his confession is like, this dude is working hard to stay in character. It's like, how much are you mad at your brother that you can't even be like, yeah, what up, what up, what up? If you can't even, you just cannot. He arrives, they sit down, they decide to start eating before Loso and his family arrives because they're late and it's already past lunchtime. Then we roll to see Lois and his family, and it turns out that they're running late for lunch because they have a little one who's like 18 months or something, and the little one had to nap, and the nap time is in conflict with what time they're supposed to be there. We learned that they only live 40 minutes away from Loiso's mom too, and that's why they don't see her as much. Jen says, this is Loiso's wife. Jen says they don't see her as much as they would love to, which is a lie. If it was her mom that lived 40 minutes away, they'd see her plenty. The kids would spend time there on the weekends plenty. This is a lie. 40 minutes? If it were your mom and she lived 40 minutes away, you want me to believe this? Okay, we'll run with it. And then they arrive. As they arrive at the thing, Pinky lets us know very early that there's contention around the dynamic, and she's putting it all on Loiso's wife. And I think that's probably because Loiso is her favorite. She will never blame him for anything. As a Rahadi, which is Pinky's role here, right? As a Rahadi, I can tell you we can be some very rational people. I don't know what is wrong with us. I don't know if we saw our moms make excuses for our brothers or whatever it is, but it's like when they do stuff, we sometimes just want to shift the blame to the wife because we don't want to be in conflict with our brother. Like I said, like, guys, I do stuff. So Pinky's like, no, the kids are here. We finally get to see them because the only time we see them and their milestones is when they post it on social media. We don't even know what's going on. And, that's my sibling. And I would be gutted if my brother was raising his kids away from me. Like, not away physically, but like I didn't know what was going on in my niece and nephew's life. And it was just like, whatever. Like, I love my niece and nephew. Like, they're my babies. Like, I would be so heartbroken and distraught if I had this strained of a relationship and the person wasn't trying to extend themselves and I didn't know how to extend myself to try and bond with these children. Like, culturally, it's just something that we don't do. I could not imagine not having my brother's kids in my life. I can't fathom. I can't. And I see that it hurts her, like deeply hurts her. And, that just like she's dressed inappropriately. I am a feminist and I am a black woman before I'm a lot of things. Like, I'm a black woman before I'm just a black person. I don't know how to explain that, right? You don't need to explain biology to me. I'm telling you now. I relate to black women before I relate to being black as a whole. I don't know, because I don't take up for men in particular, and I'm in community with black men. And I don't take up for them like that, right? But that said, now I say that all of that was so you can understand that I'm a progressive kind of person, right? I feel like there's a way to do things where you feel like you're being oppressed, and so you don't play by the rules. And then but this takes nothing away from you. Like, you don't lose anything by showing up to people's homes dressed in a manner where you're in their home. It's not wearing a longer skirt is not taking anything away from you. We don't expect you to go into your home and do that, or when you leave our home to go and do that. But if you're gonna come into this house and we're all gonna be comfortable and stuff, then do the things that you've been informed we do around here. I agree with that. But you must respect the people and respect their cultures. And you must also be partnered with a person who has reverence for these things, which isn't the case here with Jen and Loso. It's not. Loso then says that culture, is it here when he says it? Is it here where he says that there's no manual for traditional things? What the fuck does that mean? The fact that they're traditional things means they are established, meaning it's done this way, and that way. That's the manual. What are you talking about? There are ways to do things. There are acceptable ways to do things in certain spaces. You can unpack them and say, this is rooted in patriarchy, this is rooted in sexism. You can start doing that, but you can't say there's no manual. The fuck are you talking about? And this is the thing about your brothers when they marry women outside of their cultures and they don't have reverence for themselves and their culture and where they come from. They don't hold that stuff dear to them. It doesn't mean anything. They just want to be with this woman and be with the way of the world and modern and whatever else it is that they want to do. They do this. And she married him. She's not African enough to understand she's married into his family. I don't give a shit who says why. Don't tell me about her Ghanaian this. I don't care. She's not. Okay? She's not culturally, she's not cultured in the way that he is supposed to be, but he doesn't care either. So everybody around him being praised around how she appears is just wasting their time because the person she's there for doesn't care. Loso. All right, great. So I then says to everybody, I've organized a retreat for the family. Everybody's game to go, and that's what they're going to be doing in the second episode. Loiso, I don't know where this came from. In the confessional, Loiso says, Zwei is for, like, how are you establishing your position as the leader when I haven't agreed to you being the leader? Aside from Zwei just saying he's organized this retreat, did he say he's the leader? Did I miss something, guys? But anyway, Loisa says that. I don't know what the hell's going on with the editing. Episode 2, let's go. They go past the cemetery and they speak to their people. I think they're at their maternal side. And somebody was online, a healer was online, and she was talking about how when you start to speak to your ancestors, it's best that you start on your mom's side. Patriarchy would have you fucked up because she says, you're sure of that side. We have all across the continent, there's so many an African proverb telling you about the fact that don't nobody really know your daddy except your mom. Like, your mom just said that's your dad. And I say it all the time to my mom. Like, whenever my mom asks me, or I ask my dad to do something for me, and my mom feels like Gila be someone now, where like she always feels like we're asking too much of her husband. I'm like, listen, lady, this man is my dad, according to you. You say that. I always say that to her because I'm like, hey, dad, can you do this and this? And then my mom, from underneath a rock or wherever, her voice will just be like, and she'll tell you about how tired he is. Girl, why are you the one telling me what my dad is feeling? Why? Sometimes I ask my... I'll be like, can you take me to such and such a place? And this man will literally fix his mouth and say to me, your mom says I'm tired. Girl, what? What does that mean? What does it mean? Are you tired? Like, no. Your mom says I can't see in the dark. Like, girl, what? But anyway, they do this. It's crazy. But anyway, they with their mom. Their mom is still alive. And they talk to their ancestors, and Zwei, as the elder, says his piece. Pelo as being the spiritually an elder because of his gift. He also does his part, and they give each other room to do what they must. Loso also says what he needs to say, but he also lets us know in the confessionals that he does not believe in his ancestors like that. He's born again, he's Christian, but he believes in that, okay, he shares DNA with the people that came before him. You know that spiel that they like to give the Christians about how, like, yeah, they're not my mediator. I have Jesus for that. You know, the person who was birthed by the teenage virgin. Yeah, nice. They go past the cemetery. That's what they do, and they ask for, because they're going on this retreat, and they then leave. When they leave, and they're like, let's go to our paternal side. We don't get to see footage of that. They arrive at the lodge. It's really nice. They go on a game drive, and there's a lot of singing. This reminded me of the Braxton family values again, with so many clips of them just harmonizing and singing together. And when you've been singing with people for years and years and years, it's so easy for everybody to find their part. It's automatic. You know what you're singing. You know who's gonna take what tune, and it's beautiful to hear them. I don't know if they're singing the theme song. the intro song, it's a missed opportunity if they're not. I can't make out whose voices I'm hearing in the song, but missed if they're not. Cause I like the Braxtons on "We Are the Braxtons and You See." Yeah, it's really cute. Pinky and Zwei go off to the side to have a conversation. These two are close. They are close and they're also born at a certain time. And you can tell that they've taken on a lot of the teachings of our parents, like that hierarchical kind of. I don't know if it's an older, I'm the youngest, right? So I don't know if it's an older sibling thing. I've seen it a lot. They must assert their dominance. Like it's almost like that deputy parent thing. They take it so seriously. And it's like, calm the fuck down. Stop with the pyramid stuff and how you relate to people. Relations is this. You are relating to me, not at me from this position. Like, what the hell? But anyway, they go out of the chat and Pinky's like, do you feel like we've not done enough? You know, what's going on with our siblings? Zoe is clearly not getting along with Pelo, and Pinky's feeling like she doesn't have a good relationship with Loiso, and she's blaming Jen, right? At no point does she blame her sibling. And we learned that in this conversation. It's the words that she chooses to use. So I'm like, I mean, you were my faves, but I'm like, there's a way in which you're talking where I'm like, I don't know, girl, I don't know. But anyway, she says, do you think that we failed them or we didn't do enough? Zoe's like, nope. I think the problem is I did more than too much. What is it? I did too much. I did too much. These people have careers because of me. My contacts are how they cool. So I don't understand if like forever and ever, Loso and who have their own talents and their own rights, the only reason they're your contact is that you were born first, my dog. You went first and you made a success of yourself. It could easily have been Loiso because he has the talent. If he was born first and he made it first and whatever, and he pulled you in, like, are you forever indebted to him? Then what is the point of family? If not to climb together and get this bread together, is it so that I can be forever indebted to you and I must kiss the ring and, you know, I can't ever stand up for myself or want to do my own thing or be my own person? Because the constant, I have a friend who has this dynamic in their sibling relationship where the eldest of them is so hell-bent on having this weird kind of respect given to them where they're almost beyond reproach, like you can't question them. You are forever indebted for. It's like, what fucking rubbish? Like, what bagayini? So they're saying this, and then Pinky then says, I feel like you guys had your problems before everything happened. You and the guys, as the Bala brothers, were already starting to bicker. But when Jen came in, she overstepped her boundaries and she added to the thing, and she didn't know her place as a makoti. So that's an in-law. She didn't know her place as the wife, and she didn't know her place as a woman in this family. And I'm like, you are admitting that there was already contention there. Like, Jen or not, these people, we were probably still gonna end up here. And I feel like she's a sacrificial lamb because you don't she's not your brother. You don't love her the way you love Loiso. So she's easy to throw under the bus. It's easier to see what's the matter with her than to have to stop and be like, but Loiso has separated himself from everybody. It's easier to say Jen has pulled him away from everybody, or Jen meddled, or Jen interfered. If he was not okay with Jen interfering in whatever like discourse was happening, whatever contention was taking place, then he should have been like a sibling enough to everybody to be like, Jen, could you sit this out? I got this. But he let her do whatever fighting she did for him because he agreed. He would have stopped her if he wasn't in agreement, I feel, whatever it is that transpired. But Pinky's like, yeah, she didn't know her role, like as a wife and as a woman, and I didn't like her tone, I didn't like her choice of words around here. But God, she's a beautiful woman. Hey, she's in a crush, low key. Zoe sits down with his mom. His mom lets him know what had transpired at the house before he arrived in the last episode, where Barkemang Pelo was like, I don't really care. And his face tenses up. Like, he can't believe that Pelo is saying this about him, that I don't really care if he comes or doesn't come. And even if our situation is never fixed, I'm fine with it. Like, whatever, if we never cool again, I'm cool with that. Which is basically what Pelo said. And she's like, so we now have a person coming in to mediate. Are you guys gonna be okay having to talk through your issues? Is what the mom was trying to establish. And Zoe says Pelo's very disrespectful, and his disrespect then creates like room for other people around him to then disrespect me, and I don't like that. So I wonder what that's about. Older brothers do this thing where they behave like low slappies, and they are just chasing little girls and being weird around you and your friends and doing stuff where you can't respect them. And then when you don't respect them and their friends also look at them like, what a loser. I'm not saying that's what I did here. I'm saying I observe this in society at large. Then they act like the problem is you. Like, you need to respect them regardless. It's so odd. Loiso, and Pelo are to the side talking. They speak the same language. In the same way we saw Zwei and Pinky speak the same language, they speak from the same voice, from the same place. And I think these two are younger, and they are constantly being told about the sacrifices that were made by the older two to see to their well-being and their success. And I think they're just tired of hearing it. Loiso is very affirming for Pelo. He's a safe space for Pelo, and he's very interested in nurturing his brother, him, not what he wants him to be or how he feels he should show up in the world, but how he shows up. He's nurturing of that. And he says that I never want him to do something that he thinks I'm going to approve of, because I will know that he's doing it for my approval. I just want to pour into him for him to be Pelo, like his best self. And I'm very, very proud of him. I love, there's so much love here. There is so much love in how he handles them with so much care, so much love. And I love that. I love to see that in brotherhood. I really do. And Pelo even says, even him just saying I love you is really, I know Zoe ain't saying that shit, dog. Zoe. I mean, does it look like Zoe is telling Pelo I love you, dog? And then Los is like, people constantly talking about how, I struggled for my family and, and being proud of that and stuff. There's a lot to unpack here, guys. It's like the thing where you guys have the kids and then you want this kid to take care of this kid, and you think it's going to be okay in the end. The other kid is essentially sacrificing their life to take care of the people that you made that you can't afford to have. Those of you having kids after kids after kids. Did you think about this? No, you didn't. Lewis's family arrives. That's Jen and the kids. They arrive and stuff, and he's very happy to see them. He says he feels anchored when his family's around. That's lovely. The therapy session starts. This therapist is a perfect match. And it's always, if they had brought in some white old lady in there or white man, I would have been so mad. They have an older, she's a clinical therapist. They have an older black woman sitting there. She's old enough to understand a lot. She's black, so she's going to understand the dynamic of what's going on in these kind of family situations. She seems cultured enough. It's like, I was like, oh, this is so perfect. It's so perfect. They will also be more receptive of what she has to say because they can probably see their mom when they look at her, or like any person they would consider a mom. And it's a good match. I'd love to see it. Her name is Dr. Palesa. She then asked the mom, would you like to lead us and start with where we may have some issues? And the mom says, 2 things for me. The kids aren't getting along. We need to get to the bottom of that. The second is the issue of my marriage, that me and Uta Jafta got married without really consulting these kids, and it's created a lot of tension around everything that's happened. Then something happens with this edit. I really have no idea. Something is missed because we immediately just jump to Pinky saying her piece, and the transition seems weird. Like, what else was said before there? But it's weird. Pinky, who has no problems expressing herself, then goes into it, and she's like, the family structure was broken. I had to raise Loiso at the age of 14, and then I had to raise Pelo after that, right? And then she also talks about the religious stuff, how they were raised very Christian, and now here's Pello going through his journey of being a spiritual person and a traditional healer, and there's a lot going on. And then she talks about the issues of marriages, talking about how her marriage didn't even last 2 years and things like that, and that her mom is now partnered with this man that can't maintain her, and they still having to be the ones making sure that she has lights, she has food, they basically are still having to do what it is they were doing for her, but there's a man now standing next to her, so they're essentially also catering for him. So what even is the point of this person being here? I said preach. I said you go Binky, say what you must. Then Zwai's turn. Zwei says my mom guys, Zoe basically says that they learned early that every time their mom meets a partner, that person takes precedence over them. That person is very important to their mom over her own kids. And she mentions the issue of, even after my dad died, we then learned that there's a paternity situation with Pello, which is part of all his confusion and struggling to find his way in the family, and he lets us know. She's like, she married somebody in 94, and that marriage didn't even last. She's back home in 95 because he had turned out to be a very abusive person, and it's something she didn't notice in the beginning because he is a sweet man. They were going to church together, this, that, and the other, and so forth and so on. And his true colors came out in marriage, and that marriage didn't last. And we learned this is Pello's dad. Pello goes by Bala, so that's interesting because it's not her maiden name. It's anyway. I get it though. It would I do. And then Zwei says that he's like, also with Pello got married without informing us culturally. He just went and signed stuff with this person, and I learned from the kids when I picked them up from school. They'd say that they learned from their grandmother. We learn in the confessionals that Mama says to us that no, Pello invited me for the signing of the stuff with Moshe, and I didn't know at the time that him and Zwei weren't getting along. So when I got there, Zwei isn't there. I cannot go to this thing that Pello has invited me to simply because you won't be there. Like, that's still my child, which makes a lot of sense. As he's saying this about, like, because he's saying, people getting married, like, in ways that weren't appropriate, Jen jumps in. Jen doesn't speak the language they speak or understand it properly. So she jumps in. She's misheard now, and she's speaking out of turn. And I feel she elaborated more than she needed to. Jen could have just said, I'm a bit lost. Is this what you're saying? But Jen says, I don't know if I'm hearing correctly. Are you referring to our thing, that our wedding? Because we did the traditional stuff properly and you didn't even. So she goes on and she builds on it before she even waits to learn if she misheard, which she did. And you know who's quiet? The fucking husband. The husband is sitting there and not saying, no, babe, you misheard. He said this. Or, no, babe, let him clarify what he was saying. Right? Why? Because she does all the fighting. It's looking like she does all the fighting and he just sits there. And she will always end up looking like the bad guy, and he probably does not deal well with conflict. So she will have to do all the fighting for him. And they don't have the kind of affection for her that they have for him. So it will always look disrespectful when she does it. Like, you are literally throwing your wife to the wolves. But she jumps the gun. She says this. I can tell Zwei is confused. And the therapist then says, oh, were you asking Zwei to clarify something? And then we learned that, okay, they had a traditional wedding that Zwei was very involved in, but he didn't go to the white wedding, and he was supposed to be the best man at this thing because Jen had asked her sister to be her maid of honor because Zwei was already chosen to be Loisa's right-hand person or whatever. And then Pello says, I've struggled to find my place in this family. The paternity thing now becomes an issue where he's like, I struggled to find my way in this family. There's the issue of me not having the same dad as everybody. There's the sexuality stuff. So finding my way around has always been a difficult thing. And then Loisa also says there's the issue of Christianity where I feel like my beliefs aren't being respected. But I respect the religious or the African practices that everybody else participates in. I don't believe in them, but I respect it. Like, I'm not disrespectful of your choices around your belief system, but I feel like I'm Christian and my Christianity is constantly being attacked. This is said, and maybe there's some truth to it moving forward. I don't know. Probably is. I find that because they were all Christian at some point. Jane says in a confessional, but like Zmai was Christian. She's a fucking instigator. That's the other thing. But Zmai was Christian at some point, and then they play, and then he's like, "Yeah, I hate a Christian album and everything. Some song that sounds like it sucks." They play that off the. They show the album thing, and they played a little bit of the song, and Jane is like, "Yeah, yeah, he was at some point." I find that when you deconstruct, when you were somewhat in the faith or born into it, because a lot of us are just born into it and we go with it because it's what we know. But in adulthood, when you deconstruct, you're so mad. You are so mad at the years wasted, but you also just find it so like you're like, oh my god. So they probably do make snark remarks all the time. They did when they got there. They were talking about the river, and them always saying, "Oh, the preachers will be preaching to you about how wide and deep, the river of Jordan is, but they never been." Like, that was funny. But anyway, they say that. So after everybody has put their stuff out there, the therapist then turns to mom and she's like, "Okay, you've heard what the kids have had to say, and what say you?" And we have a long pause, and we are gonna learn in episode 3. I don't know. I don't know, you guys. It's a good watch. The family dynamics are so relatable. They're so real. Even the family home. I looked at it. I'm like, this could easily be my grandmother's house. It's just, I love watching things like this. It just feels real. They are being real. I love that. I love it. They still raw. And that's typical of a first season of something, Then they go back and they see how people are talking trash about them or judging on their family dynamic, and then they pull back going into the next seasons. And, the show, I'm watching this on DSTV now, by the way. Anybody who's wondering, that they have it on catch up. So I'm watching it on the app and on my phone or whatever. But yeah, that's that. Bye,